Hi, this is Kimberly Whitman with Heart of the Bride Ministries. The mandate for Heart of the Bride is to be the full expression of the heart of Yahweh. The recording that you're about to watch is our Sunday morning gathering. Our Sunday mornings are more like all of us gathering around our Heavenly Father's table and discussing what He has been releasing and revealing to each one of us bringing our piece, our part, our voice, our sound. Stay to the end of the video to learn more about Heart of the Bride, but until then, for now, enjoy as you engage. So let's get started, okay? Father, thank you, Lord. Thank you, Father. Lord, we worship and praise you with all of our being, with every breath, with every sound, every cell of our being, every molecule of water in our being worships and praise you. We thank you for what you want to release today, what is on your heart, and we come into union with you, with your sound, your frequency, the passion of your heart, the desire of your being. We thank you, Lord, for what you're doing in us, through us. And we just magnify you. We thank you for our friend Greg and all that you have been stirring in his heart, in his being, and all that you desire to release this morning. We honor the cloud of witnesses and the heavenly beings that are joining us this morning, and we invite you to be in this place as we worship our Father, to add your voice and your sound with ours, to glorify him and him alone. Thank you, Father. Thank you, Lord. Be yourself amongst us and have your way this morning, Father, and whatever you desire to do. You are free to be you, to release whatever you desire to release this morning. And we take our hands off of it to partner with you only. Thank you, Lord. Thank you, Lord. Amen. Amen. Well, it is an honor to partner with Greg Ordway this morning and all that he has to share on his heart. He didn't even give me a little hint. He just said, it's going to be something I've never shared before. And I nearly lost my mind. I'm like, ah! So without further ado, I would like to invite Greg to share with us. And y'all, it's going to be good.
Oh my goodness.
Hey, everybody. Wow. What an honor to be with all of you. It really is. You all are the beloved sons of Yahweh. And I am just thrilled and honored to be here. And I just want to acknowledge you and acknowledge all of everyone is here because you are so radiantly beautiful and filled with Yahweh's life and light and glory. It's just a treasure to be with all of you here this morning. So we just want to acknowledge, as Kim did, all of our other wonderful friends with us, the triune being, the witnesses. You know, I especially just want to honor John and Enoch. They've been so helpful and instrumental in helping me this morning, and I just want to acknowledge them as we get started. But as we get started, let's go. I want to start I'm going to start reading from Psalms 36, 7 and 8, which reads, "How excellent is your loving kindness, O Yahweh. Therefore, the children of men put their trust under the shadow of his wings." I'll just stop there for a minute because it's so important to me, and that I feel Yahweh is bringing us into whatever level of understanding and engagement with his love, his ahava that he has for us, that we've engaged in, no matter what dimension or realm you've been in. I just sense Yahweh is saying you're about to like be dunked. You thought you were wet, but you're not. You thought you were deep, but you're not. And he wants to immerse us in a much greater, I don't know how to describe it, just a much greater dimension of this, just in the way this verse reads, just even in English. It's how excellent is this loving kindness, your hesed, your ahava for us. It's so great, it's so magnificent, it's so wonderful that men will put their trust in him. It's like you experience his love. We know in 1 John it says that perfect love casts out all fear, and you engage with his love to a realm and a dimension that all fear goes, and you have complete and total trust and confidence that you can completely yield and abandon yourselves to him. You put your trust under the shadow of his wings. And it's from this place, this dimension, this realm of engagement with his love for us, that we go on to the next verse, which says that they shall be abundantly satisfied with the fatness of your house.
Come on.
And I'll just stop for a minute just on that. To be abundantly satisfied with the fatness. The fatness there really depicts richness, a rich indulgence, his goodness of his house. Now, house in Hebrew is actually our wonderful Hebrew living friend, Bet. So it's really kind of fun when you begin to understand the Hebrew living beings and our friends, that you can transliterate. So when you see house, you can actually know you're engaging Bet. So we'll be abundantly satisfied with the fatness. And one of the things Bet means is to be in. Now, to understand that we're going to be abundantly satisfied with the excessive goodness and indulgence of being in him.
Come on.
No. Excuse me, yum, yum, yum. And to be abundantly satisfied of just the reality of being in. And it's so that inness, to being in. I mean, it's hard for us in this natural realm to understand the dimension of what he means by being in, because you can put two things together as close as you want to, but that doesn't get to you this finger being in that finger and that finger being in that finger. I mean, when we're in a dimension and a realm where there's completely no separation whatsoever. But it's under this realm and dimension of his loving kindness that we yield ourselves to it. And he brings us and he says, now you're going to experience to be abundantly satisfied with this reality of being in.
Come on.
But it doesn't start there, because then he goes on to say that he will make us drink of the river of his pleasure. Oh. Right? He'll make us drink of the river of his pleasure. So I want to just spend a little time on that. Oh my goodness. Because there's three words I want to point out in this verse in Hebrew, because it's going to tie into where Yahweh is going to take us this morning, because that word abundantly satisfied in Hebrew is the word ravah, and that actually means to be drunk. Isn't it fun that the Father wants us to live in a state of being drunk?
Drunk in the Holy Spirit.
Yep, drunk. I'm glad you brought that up. Because even in the New Testament, Paul writes, and he says, do not be drunk with wine wherein is excess. He is not making a statement that he is advocating no drunkenness. Because the rest of the verse says, he says, but be filled. But in context, he's actually saying, don't be drunk with wine in its excess, but be drunk in the Spirit.
Yeah, that's right.
So he's not advocating not for us to be drunk. He just wants us to be drunk in the right realm.
Oh, that's so good.
He wants us to be drunk with the Spirit or with the breath of Yahweh.
River of pleasure.
To be drunk. But that word, it's interesting, the ravah, because it's a resh, vav, hey. Resh is the head, but more in a deeper sense, it's resh is a resh shin. So it means to be in the highest places of this most intense, inflamed, burning, raging fire. Vav means to be connected or in union, but actually in the deeper sense, it's the number 6, it means a 6-sided object, which means to be complete. And a 6-sided object not only has height and width, it has depth. So he's talking about being in this high place, engaged with this raging fire, the highest raging, consuming, burning fire of Yahweh, in the highest, widest, deepest connectedness with his breath, or with his embrace, as the hay can also mean an embrace. So that's the word ravah. The next word I want to look at is this word drink, which is shikah, which is a shin kuf hay. And the shin, means the fire. The kuf means to be holy or to be set apart. So this word shikah, to drink, means to be consumed with being set apart for his breath, or to engage with his breath or his embrace. And Yahweh wants us to be engaged in this, and it's just amazing. The word river is the last word I want to look at. In river, if you go back to Genesis 2:10, I think it is, where it says, because this is talking about drinking from the river of his pleasure. Pleasure is the word Eden. So he's talking about this realm of Eden, drinking from Eden. So the river in Eden, it was the word Nahar, and Nahar is a noon, hey resh, which means to be perpetually in the breath of the highest, in the highest capacity. So how Father is just, it's really interesting that in all of this, there's an emphasis on the hay and engaging in the breath of Yahweh. And the Father's been speaking to a lot of people all over the earth, all over, about the breath and engaging with the breath in different ways. But there's an engagement with his breath that he's bringing us into that transcends where we've been. To know that we can engage in this realm of breath, because these 3 words just in this verse, to be drunk has to do with the hay, to drink has to do with the hay, the river has to do with the hay, the breath of Yahweh, to bring us into. So he's making an emphatic statement, encompassing statement of engagement with his living breath. And he wants to help us get to a much greater place in going there. Now, I like, going back to being drunk, if the state of being drunk alters your physiology, it alters your perception. But the thing about when you get drunk, it has a lingering effect. When you get to a drunken state, it's not like say, okay, I'm done being drunk and flip a switch and that's it. And you just go back to being sober. It doesn't work that way, right? So when he wants us to be in this drunken state, and I've been learning that when I have a drink with Yahweh and I come into a drunken place, that it's okay to just bask and let that drunkenness have its effect in me, in my spirit, in my physiology, in my thinking, and then it's okay for it to linger, for that drunkenness to continue. And so I've had engagements that last for days. I've had a couple of them that have lasted for weeks, where that sensation and that encounter so affected me. It got in me, just like when you drink enough alcohol, it gets in you, and it affects your perception, your physiology. It affects how you can manage yourself. Actually, the word drunk, to be a drunkard, means that you live in a place of excessive indulgence. Right? A drunkard is someone who lives in a state of being excessively indulging in alcohol, or continuing to maintain his drunken state. And Father wants us to be drunk with him. He wants us to be drunk with his spirit, his breath, his love for us. He wants us to continually be engaged with that. And we can do that and still function in this realm. But I have come to understand, Yeshua himself lived in a constant state of an outrageous, burning love affair with Yahweh. He was constantly engaged in this highest, inflamed relationship with Yahweh, where he was loving Yahweh, Yahweh was loving him, and it's just this constant flow between them always. It's a never-ending place where he lives all the time. And he wants us to kind of get to that point. One of my favorite saints made this, the Teresa of Avila made the statement that, let us behave as the drunkard who does not think of himself. And that's so true. I mean, when you get really drunk, you don't think about yourself anymore. She goes on to say, but we only think about what the wine that we have just drunk and the wine that we are about to drink. These ones that have gone before us understood something about an engagement with being intoxicated, inebriated with Yahweh, and they were unashamed to do that. Right? I don't know what society was back in their day, but I know in our society, if you drink too much, unless you're in some circles, that's just not okay. And even in the religious culture we grow up in, it's just like you can drink every now and then, but it's not okay to be a constant drunkard in your relationship with Yahweh. And it's just like Yahweh saying, yes, it is perfectly okay. And in Psalms 36:8, he says, I will make you drink of the rivers of my pleasure. And I really appreciate how Yahweh put that, because he's basically saying, I want you to come and drink of this realm and this reality of Eden, the realm of his pleasure. It's the place that Adam was first placed. It's this other realm. It's a realm that is outside of the created realm. Eden can overlap, but it's a place and a dimension that transcends this realm. And Yahweh is saying, I want you to drink from that realm. I want you to engage with that realm. I'm going to make you drink and be drunk. And that word shakah also means this. It means to be, because fire consumes, or fire transforms or transfigures. And if you drink to a point where the shakah, you will be consumed and you will be transformed and transfigured to perfectly reflect the breath of Yahweh.
Yes.
So there's something about engaging with him and drinking from him to a point that transfiguration takes place. And he wants us to engage a lot more with his breath. A lot more. You know, all of creation knows who we are. And it's been a fun engagement over the last couple of years as Yahweh's helped me to understand that. But you just get to a point where you can engage with creation. And I began just with being able to acknowledge and feel and understand the energy. And I would come outside on the property here and I'd sit in my lawn chair and I'd have my shoes off and I'd put my feet in the grass and I could engage with the grass and I could sense their song and the frequency of Yahweh that he had put into them, and then the trees. And as time goes on, you get to a point where you can engage with any living thing.
Yeah.
And then just last week, I had this wonderful engagement with the clouds. Because I was driving from one place to another and the clouds that were there, but the clouds began to speak to me. And it wasn't like even though I was physically on the earth and the clouds were up there, it's not like I was on the earth and they were there and we were having this conversation that way. My spirit went and joined with the clouds.
Yeah.
And I began to engage with these clouds, and what they began to reveal to me is it's still working in me. It's kind of like that drunken lingering effect. It's still working in me because these clouds had no, they were, they knew that Yahweh had put them there. And it didn't matter how big or how small they were. There was absolutely no competition between them. But they were absolutely thrilled to be just carried by the breath of Yahweh wherever he would take them. And he would let them sculpt them into whatever shape he wanted to shape them in.
Come on.
And they did it with absolutely no resistance whatsoever because they were so completely thrilled to be engaging with Yahweh and to serve him and to radiate his beauty and his glory and shower it over the earth wherever they were. And that just really has just really captivated me this last week. But the fact that creation understands who we are, and because in my engagements with creation, I would like there's the trees over there, and I would engage with them, and I would just say, and I could feel the energy of Yahweh in them, and I could hear the song of Yahweh, and I was just like, that is so awesome. I just honor and appreciate who Yahweh has made you to be and how you just stand there and glorify him like that. And then all of a sudden creation started speaking back to me, and they say, yeah, but you're way more glorious than I am. And it was interesting that my engagements with creation, all of creation would come to a place where they would acknowledge that I was honoring them before Yahweh, but they knew that I, as a son and a beloved son of Yahweh, was something way more spectacular than that they would ever attain to. And it's really helped change the perception of understanding we are so much more than we have ever thought ourselves to be. And he wants to help us go to a place where we engage in that reality.
Come on.
And then my friend Enoch joined in the conversation. And he, I've had this continuing developing relationship with him, and I just can't tell you how thankful I am of this friendship and engagement with him. But the other day, I was just thinking about Enoch and thinking about his life, and so I thought, oh, I'll just go back and just start reading the accounts we have of him. And so I started the first verse, Genesis 5:21, which tells us, and Enoch lived 65 years. And that's as far as I got. And Enoch spoke to me and he says, you don't have a clue what that means. So that really inspired me. I didn't argue with him. I'm like, you're probably right. I probably don't. As much as he's already shared with me about the 65. But what really struck out to me was this word lived. It's the word kaya. the Het Yod Hey. And he began to unveil to me that this Het Yod Hey has to do with the Yod, the infinite energy of Yahweh. It's the fullness of Yahweh. It's the place and the energy of Yahweh that where anything and everything is possible. I mean, when you're engaged with the Yod, you can manifest anything, anywhere, at any time, in any dimension, because you're engaged in that energy that has the ability to do that.
Yes.
Right?
Yes.
And then that's the Yod in the middle. And then you have the Het, and the Het means life. It means eternal life. It's the figure 8. And you take the figure 8, it's a continual flow, nonstop, continual flow of energy. It comes from Yahweh down into us, into creation, and it comes back up into him. And it's just this continual, perpetual flow of this life energy. But the other thing about it is it doesn't stay in that one thing. It gets tighter and tighter and deeper and deeper. And it's really hard to draw. You'd have to have like a 3D thing to show it like he showed it to me. And then we know the Hey. And so as I was just looking at that and going in that, then Enoch, he said, well, let me read it to you this way. He says, I realized that I was the breath of the living energy that came out of the fullness of Yahweh.
Yes.
And so what I realized is that all the times I had read that verse, and Enoch lived 65 years, I'd always read it as a demarcation of time, a counting of time, which in and of itself was amazing. The fact that he didn't even start having children until he was 65, which is unthinkable in our day. There was so much life energy in people in those first couple of centuries. You know, they didn't even have to think about having children until they were 60, 70, 80, 90 years old, which is just an interesting thought. Right. But that is not primarily telling us that he was on the earth for 65 years before he had Methuselah. It's really about saying that he realized and stepped into that he was the breath of Yahweh that had within him this eternal life energy. And then he says he lived 65. So he understood he was this living breath. And then the 65 is the Samach Hay. And the Samach Hay is this vortex. It is this whirlwind, this hurricane of the breath of Yahweh. It is. And so Enoch, when he stepped into the reality of being breath, now see, we have for too long, we're so lived in this earth realm for so long, this created realm so long, we're so used to thinking of ourselves as flesh and blood. But Yahweh learned that's not true. He's breath. He's the breath of Yahweh. He came out of the infiniteness of Yahweh. And being that, then he began, because he was that, then he could step into the vortex of the breath of Yahweh. He could step into the 65, the Samach Hay. He could step into this raging, you know, if you know, we have tornadoes we rate as F1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Well, this is like an F100, you know, I mean, it's so hard to depict the intenseness and the power that's being generated by this whirlwind of the breath of Yahweh. And that's what Enoch was engaging with, but he could do it because he finally realized he was breath.
Yes.
He was not just a mere mortal being, which is something that's a structure we have got to completely disassemble. Because we have a physical body, but even our physical body is made by Yahweh to fit like a perfectly fit glove over your hand to work with your breath, your spirit. And I know that because the 65 is actually encoded in every cell atom, subparticle of atoms there is in creation. And I know that because in creation began with Bereshit bara. Bara is creation. Starts with the bet. If you were to draw the bet in picture form is like a floor plan. It has 5 lines to it. Each one of those lines is actually evolved, so you have the 65. So the 65 is actually embedded and encoded in the very substructure fabric of all of creation. So your physical body is made to co-work and exist with your physical body, and that's why you can do limitless things. We're not limited to this physical realm. You know, Enoch learned how to engage with Yahweh to such an extent he bypassed death, that he can go in and out of time at will. He can translocate at will anywhere he wants to go. He can change his form. The first time I met Enoch, he did not appear in a human form. He was actually a flowing ribbon of red spirit or breath. And so when we come to understand that Enoch, and he lived in this 65, he lived in this engagement with this vortex of the breath of Yahweh. And then when you take the 65 a step further, you understand that 65 is 5 times 13. So this 65, this vortex of the breath of Yahweh, is actually a vortex of the breath of his Ahava. It's the breath of his Ahava. It's the breath of his love. Which takes us back to that first, the loving kindness of Yahweh is where we come under. And so Yahweh has this breath, this vortex of the breath of Yahweh, of his love. And even Enoch became intoxicated with this. He became consumed with it, because then it goes on to say that he lived 300 years, the Shin. All the days of Enoch were 365. So he was consumed with being within the vortex of the breath of Yahweh. He came to that place where he could exist in this raging love breath whirlwind. And the Psalmic is also, the Hebrew rabbis will teach that it actually represents resurrection, the resurrection reality. So when you're in that vortex, you are surrounded and supported, and you are lifted up ever continually up into an eternal realm where you engage with all the realities that exist in the resurrection.
Yes.
And that's wonderful for us, because that means that we can do whatever Jesus did after the resurrection.
Come on.
Right?
Yes.
We can translocate, we can change our form, we can disappear, we can hide ourselves, we can walk. I mean, we can do everything. We're not limited. We can fly like Jesus flew. You know, he didn't die to go to heaven after he was resurrected. He just flew. So all of that is, it's perfectly normal for us to think that. And we have to get away from this thinking that we're not in that. And even Paul realized and was consumed with this breath of Yahweh, this love breath of Yahweh, to the point that he was able to say in Romans, neither death nor angels, neither death nor life, nor angels, nor principalities, nor powers, nor things present, nor things to come, nor any other thing can ever separate me from his love. And Yahweh wants us all to be so saturated, so drunk, so consumed with this Ahava breath, this whirlwind of Ahava breath with him, that we can say, it does not matter what's going on in earth or in heaven. It doesn't matter if it's life or it's death. It doesn't matter if it's angels or demons. It does not matter. Nothing other will ever separate me or come in between me from this love affair with Yahweh.
Yes.
I'm unaffected by anything and everything that may be around me, because I am so drunk and consumed and intoxicated and engaged with the breath, the love breath of Yahweh, because I finally come into a place where I understand I am breath. And that's the other thing about the 365 is the 3, 6, and 5 can also be a shin, a vav, and a hey, which is the word shavah, which means to be equal. So Enoch learned how to step into this equality with the breath of Yahweh. And he wants to share with us more about how to do that. And John wants to help us engage more with this breath. And so then my friend John began to help me. And John began to talk to me about the 7 spirits of Yahweh. And if you just look it up, if you just type it in and look up 7 spirits and hit the button, all the scriptures come up about the 7 spirits. Well, it's very interesting. All of them that have to do with the 7 spirits are pretty much 99% all recorded by John in the book of Revelations. We know Isaiah 11:2 lists out the 7 spirits for us, but other than that, the Bible doesn't have really anything much to say from that point until John is on the Isle of Patmos and he's engaging with Yahweh and he's engaging in the Spirit. He's in the Spirit on the Lord's day and he's up there and he sees Yeshua like he has never seen Yeshua before, because when he saw him, he had never seen him in a state where he had 7 horns and 7 eyes and his eyes were fire and his feet were brass and all of that. So he was encountering Yeshua in a much greater dynamic than he ever did when he was on the earth or even up to that point. And Yahweh wants to let you know he is going to begin to reveal himself to all of us in ways that we have never seen him before.
Come on.
That he's going to help us break out of our constructs and he's going to appear to us in dimensions and realms and shapes and forms that the church age would not otherwise allow us to do that, but he's taking us beyond that because he wants us to engage the fullness of who he is. Am I okay on time?
You're good. Yeah,
Okay.
We are limitless.
Oh, yes, sorry. And so one of the first things John reveals about the 7 spirits is in Revelations 1:4. He says, grace be unto you and peace from him which was and is to come. And we're used to that, right? Grace and peace from Yeshua. I mean, that's okay. That's normal. But he says, and from the 7 spirits which are before his throne. So John has engaged in and understands and has now developed a relationship with the 7 spirits. And he understands that the 7 spirits are not like a painting, permanent painting on the wall. They're actually these living entities that he is engaging with, and he's engaging them with Yeshua. And it's awesome that he says that grace and peace came from both Yeshua and them.
So good, Greg.
And this is where you can do your transliteration, because grace is the hey, peace is shalom. So both Yeshua and the 7 spirits are all about being able to dispense to us the hey, the breath, and the shalom of Yahweh. One of the things, I guess. So these 7 spirits, and so that began to just captivate me. And it's just like, oh, there is so much more about the 7 spirits that John was the one who Yahweh used to record for us a few things about them, but it lets us know that there is something about Yeshua and the seven spirits in our engagement that we need to come into an embracement and an acknowledgement and an alignment with, because that's what's going to propel us into a different place.
So good.
In Revelations 3:1 and Isaiah 11:2, these two scriptures let us know that the seven spirits, like I said, they're not just before the throne, but it says that in 3:1, it says that Yeshua has the seven spirits. So when John saw the seven spirits on Yeshua, I mean, it's true. I mean, it's like they are a part of him.
Yeah.
They rest on him. In Isaiah 11:2, it says they rest on him. And so when we're going to fully engage with Yeshua, then we're going to come into a greater understanding. We're not just dealing with Yeshua, we're dealing with Yeshua and what's on him and in him with these seven spirits.
Yeah.
And then he also shares with us in Revelations 4:5 that they are burning lamps, which I think is a weak translation. It's more like raging pillars of fire.
Right.
And these seven spirits are these raging spirits, living things. And then the other thing he shares with us that I'm gonna pick up on and go a little more into. And he says, "Behold, lo, in the midst of the throne of the elders stood a lamb as it had been slain, having 7 horns and 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of God." So the 7 spirits are actual eyes.
Yeah.
And this is going to be extremely important for us as we go forth and engage, because John shares with us earlier later in Revelations that there are these 7 seals. And these 7 seals are written on the back of a book. And then I realized that the back of the book is the spine.
Well, come on. Well, yeah.
Right?
That's the truth.
So there is on our spine these 7 seals or 7 eyes. And so we are not beings that only have 2 eyes. We are actually beings that have 9 eyes. And if you limit yourself to living your life with only these 2 eyes, you are literally missing out on what you could actually be engaging with, because there are more eyes in your spirit, in you, than just these 2. And it's also interesting that it says only Yeshua could open up those seals. And we know Yeshua accomplished that when he rose from the dead, because the 2 men who were on the road to Emmaus, they were walking and Yeshua had disguised himself. They didn't know who he was. They asked him to stay with them. He was going to go on. He decided to stay with them. And it says when he broke the bread, and to me, I think this is the first recorded communion after the resurrection. But during communion, as he broke the bread, it says their eyes were open. And I fully, wholeheartedly believe that that was the unlocking of all 7 eyes, all of these seals. And because it says, and they knew him.
Yes. Yes.
And so these 7 spirits, there is one of these 7 spirits that perfectly identifies which each one of these seals are our other eyes. And as we come to a place where we fully agree and align with each of them and engage with them, you know, we have that one scripture that tells us that 1 can put 1,000 to flight, 2 can put 10,000 to flight. So when all of my eyes are fully aligned with the 7 eyes of the 7 spirits, it enables me to an engage of knowing Yeshua, knowing Yahweh, that is beyond, I think, my ability to put into words.
Come on.
Other than to say whatever Yeshua meant by that word know, when he said it,
Yes.
everything that's in that, that's what I agree with.
Amen. Amen.
Because it's way beyond anything we understand of knowing another person in this realm. Right? So these 7, and then even John in 1 John 1-5, he says the things which we've seen and the things which we've handled, but it says the things which we've seen with our eyes, plural, eyes. See, John had come to a place where he was engaging more with these 7 spirits and how they were able to give him greater insight, because all of his eyes, all of his seals are now open. And it's easy to understand why revelations came, because he was seeing with all of his eyes and he could see it all. So Yahweh began to have me engage with the 7 spirits, and I've been doing this for a while now, just developing a relationship with them. But one of the first things we had to do in Philemon 1:6, there's a wonderful truth, because it says that the acknowledging of your faith is made effectual. The communication of your faith is made effectual by the acknowledging of every good thing which is within you. And that word effectual, it actually means to make active or make powerful. So there is something that when you acknowledge something that is within you, it brings it into activity, and it releases all of the power that's within that. And so as I had to come to a place where I would begin to acknowledge these 7 spirits specifically, which means I had to learn their names and to begin to engage with them. And as we're engaging with them, okay, we'll get there. Because in English, if you go back to Isaiah 11:2, that's our English translation. It says that the Spirit of the Lord, the Spirit of wisdom, the Spirit of counsel and might, which is wonderful. And there's a lot of things into them, but that's not actually their names. Because in Hebrew, their names are Ruach, Chakma, Binah, Etzah, Geburah, Da'ath, and Yirah. And it's in understanding them in that capacity that's really helped me to unlock and engage deeper with them, and helping me to come into a greater understanding of who they are and how they want to help me. So it's probably better if I can do the screen share. How do I do that? Share screen, there we go. I think. All right, can you all see my screen? Okay, now I'm going to pull this up. Okay, so this right here is a list of all the different names of Yahweh. Ruach is actually Resh, Vav, Het, Chakma is a het kaf mem he. Bina is bet yod nun he. Etsa is ayin zadi he. Bina is nun bet vav he. Da'ath is dalet ayin tav. And Yira is yod resh aleph he.
Greg,
Yeah,
Greg, do you mind is it okay if we take a picture of it? Do you mind that since it's your
I don't
notes?
mind.
You okay? Okay, sorry to interrupt. I just wanted to ask permission.
Freely given, freely received. Take a picture. Okay. So if you notice, 5 of those 7 names all end in A. So there is a significant engagement with these 7 spirits to help us engage with the breath of Yahweh. Ruach actually means breath. It's the hay. So that's already included. So that's 6 out of 7. The Oth is a Dalet Ayin Tav. It's, if you add those up, that's 474. 474 is 15. 15 is a hay and a yod, which means it's the breath of the fullness of Yahweh, or the breath of the infinite energy of Yahweh. So actually all 7 of these engage us more with the breath of Yahweh.
So good.
So what Yahweh has had me do is identify, because they're all these 7 eyes of mine, and these are 7 eyes. So as I would engage with them, I would just go through this, I don't know, just an engagement. I'll just call it that. But I would start with Ruach, and Ruach is actually starts at the base of the spine. And I would acknowledge him, and I would just say, I align myself with you, Ruach. I align my eye with your eye. And then I would take his name, because embedded within the name is a much greater depth. And I'm just going to go over some of the meanings of them. I mean, you could dive into each one of these, because it's much more than even what I'm going to share. But Ruach, I would get to Ruach, and Ruach is a Resh Vav He. So how I have come to understand that, it means that Ruach is helping me come to the highest, most burning, inflamed, consuming, complete, deep connectedness with the ever-flowing, densifying, eternal life of Yahweh. And so I would engage that, and I would just allow that energy to come in me, and recognize that that is what Ruach is doing. Ruach is helping me to engage in that dimension of Yahweh, in that eye, in that seal. And then I would go to the next one, which is Chakma, which we know it in English as wisdom. But wisdom is this het kaf mem he. So it's the eternal densifying flow of eternal life of the King of Kings, where his living frequencies of love are breathed into me. And so I would engage Chakma and align my seal with his seal and allow that energy of Yahweh. And then I would say, I thank you that as we're doing this, this is helping me to engage in knowing Yahweh and Yeshua and Ruach in a much greater dimension, because when their eyes were opened, they knew him.
Yes. Oh, that's good.
And so all of this is to help me engage more greatly in this whirlwind, this vortex of the living, loving breath of Yahweh that takes me up higher and higher and higher into greater and greater dimensions and realities and engagements and union and oneness and knowing of him. And then Bina has to do with your the seal, what we call the solar seal, right here in your belly. The energy center is what it's known as other places. But it's a bet yod nun he. So it means to be in the hand of, in the fullness of Yahweh's perpetual breath. Or it means to be a house filled with the infinite energy and the perpetual breath of Yahweh. And so I would engage Bina. and align myself with him and what he is trying to convey to me and helping me to know Yeshua. And then you get to the heart seal, Eitzah, which is an ayin zadi hey, which means to see and have insight into the fullness of Yahweh's ahava, or his love, and to stand righteously in his breath.
This meeting is being recorded.
Eitzah also means this: to see and to have insight into the fullness of Yahweh's ahava, and the flow of those waves and those frequencies flow through me, surround me, and support me, and lift me up into the vortex, the whirlwind of his living breath. So that's Eitzah, who has to do with the heart seal, the seal over your heart. And then interesting that seal over your heart has to do with taking you into the vortex of the living, loving breath of Yahweh. And then we get to Binah. Make this easier for you all. Binah has to do with this seal right here. It has to do with your voice, your sound. It's a noon bet vav reshe, which means, in my engagement, to be perpetually in him and engaging in being in him in a complete deep union in the highest burning, consuming, inflamed breath of Yahweh. All of these 7 spirits who are with Yeshua, they rest on him and they engage us. All of them have to do with taking us into this vortex of his breath.
Yes.
And then Da'ath, who we know as knowledge, which this is interesting because it has to do with the third eye. It means to be lifted up and to see and have insight into the Father's ahava in truth and life, or to be sealed with his love as you engage with it. Now, how they got the word knowledge out of that, I don't know. And then Yirah, who has to do with on top of the head where the crown is. The Yod Resh Aleph Hey, the hand of Yahweh lifts me up into the highest burning, raging, inflamed oneness with Yahweh's breath and his embrace. So that's what these 7 spirits are actually engaging with us. And there's much more than that, because that's just one iteration of who they are and what the depth of what they convey to us. But Yahweh wants to bring us into this alignment and this understanding and an engagement with the 7 spirits, because it's not by accident that the revealing of the 7 spirits did not come until John engaged in the heavenly realms and he saw Yeshua with the 7 spirits. But these 7 spirits are vital to us into walking into. They are all here to help us engage in knowing Yahweh and knowing Yeshua and knowing Ruach and knowing who we are. And the Father had to adjust my whole perspective of the 7 spirits, because for I don't know how long I'd always seen them as I think I've done that. I'd always seen it as, and there was me, there was the 7 spirits, and then there was Yahweh. And Yahweh said, that is not correct. Actually, he said, that's not accurate. And so I had to learn that the 7 spirits were here, I was here, and then there was Yahweh. And I had to come to a place of recognizing, as magnificent and glorious and wonderful as the 7 spirits are, as powerful as they might be, they do not consider themselves greater than the sons of Yahweh. They know better. They know and recognize we as the sons of Yahweh have a higher place than they do.
Mm.
And they are so thrilled and willing to serve us and to align with us, to help us be in the face of Yahweh, to be before his throne, to be with him and to engage with him so that we can come into an ever greater, increasing, densifying, raging, ravishing, entangled, entwined union of oneness with his love for us. Wow. So, Father, we just honor you. We honor these 7 spirits that you have created for us to engage with, to know you. We so appreciate them and we acknowledge them. And we thank you for the ability that you have given us, that you have completely unlocked and opened all of our eyes to engage with you. We just love you, Father, and we just thank you for these things. In the name of Yeshua, amen.
Hi, this is Kimberly Whitman, the founder of Heart of the Bride Ministries. If this video has blessed you, I want to personally invite you to trade into Heart of the Bride and partner with us to become an essential part of what God is doing through Heart of the Bride Ministries. Your support enables us to continue to reach people all over the world, and we're seeing people from every corner of the globe coming into the realization of their oneness in Christ. We passionately want to see every person living from this reality of oneness in and with I am. He is truly transforming all of creation according to Father's desire and design. And to find out more about Heart of the Bride, go to www.heartofthebride.net. For I, says the Lord, will be a wall of fire all around her, and I will be the glory in her midst.